Ladies and gentlemen, everyone around and in between, it is Debate Sensei, where we talk about topics that are relevant to competitive cross examination debate. This is the CEDA version, and therefore we got Devin Cooper from California State University, Long Beach, Director of Debate. Thank you so much, Devin.
Thank you for having me.
All right. So, in this episode, I wanted to talk about debate over winter break because I remember that was always a time where I had such high hopes of being such a disciplined debater, and I don't think I ever once was as disciplined as I hoped to be. So I wanted to sort of commiserate with somebody else, perhaps, especially now as a coach. So let's talk a little bit about how the challenges of debating over winter break. Not the least of which are the holidays, but some of the things are hidden from people's view, like the how bureaucratically it's different and difficult and things like that. What are some barriers to like just getting to the logistics of getting to a freaking tournament that you have experienced over winter that you don't normally experience during the semester?
Um, well, I mean, it's not usually as different, like logistically. I mean,
Okay.
the better part about debating over winter break is that there's no classes
Mm,
that students have to go to. So that kind of makes it better. But the problem is that, a lot of times students, they want their break.
right.
And so, that presents some problems. It's like, if I don't want to debate over, winter, I'm not going to do much. But the problem also is that sometimes people do not do anything that are debating over the
Yeah.
winter break. And that kind of hurts when you're in an activity that requires you to constantly update your research and your evidence. And like you just decide to slack off. And also, people stop doing speaking drills and all that good stuff because it's not
Right.
the daily routine. And then you try to get back into the pace of it and you sound like crap. And so that's kind of the problem. And I think that, like, oftentimes when we do have these tournaments, you can tell who practiced and who stayed in the know based on
Right.
where the rankings are. So,
Right. Right. So I mean, like that's interesting that there's some benefit to it, right? Where like having empty classrooms that you can book, it almost makes it ideal to have a tournament over winter break.
I mean, I remember when there used to be like at least 3 tournaments over
Mm.
winter break that were occurring, and that was something
Not
that was
anymore. No.
not that I'm aware of, because I know that there used to be California swing, the
Mm.
Texas swing, and then it was called the Texas two step or something.
Mm.
And then the California swing was a thing. And then the other thing that happened was that there was a Berkeley tournament that was the week before school started. So
Okay. And so now is there a lot less?
yeah, I don't know if the Texas two step's still a thing. We're hosting the California swing technically
Mm.
at Cal State Long Beach, like in January 5th through the 9th. The Berkeley tournament doesn't exist in college anymore,
Oh.
but it was a pretty good one. Like people used to like go to the California swing and then they would stay an extra like 4 or 5 days to go to the Berkeley tournament
Mm.
because it was still like in the area, but got to fly up to Berkeley.
Right. Right.
So,
Right. Makes a whole lot of sense to have a tournament in the south, either west or just where there's no snow, so people can get out of their get out of
mhm.
that environment into a better one. All right, so what are some of the I mean, first up, how were you when it came to like when you look back, were you the disciplined debater over winter break, like keeping your
Yes.
prep? Yeah.
Yeah, I was definitely a fanboy of debate.
Okay.
And so, I was definitely trying to push my partner to stay ready and to do all that other stuff. But, for us, like, I feel like the first time we went to the California swing was actually when it was over New
Hmm.
Year's. Like
Oh.
we got to California like December the 30th, and the tournament started on January the 1st, the 2nd. It was January the 2nd, and it went all the way to the 7th. And so I remember that being a thing. But I remember the first one we went to was probably like in 2005, no, 2006, and it was turning 2007 while we were there. And so that was the first time I think I went to California with debate. And it was the Fullerton USC swing.
Oh,
And so that was, I mean, that tournament, I think it was like 6 rounds each of the legs of the tournament. And I think we like went 3-3 at both of the legs that first year.
mm.
And so it was kind of like frustrating because it was like, oh my gosh, y'all are here in California. And like we didn't break, and it was crazy. And so I think that part of it was not being as practiced because it takes both partners. And so if one person is more prepared than the other, you can't necessarily carry all of that
Yeah,
readiness and make it illuminate onto your partner if he hasn't been doing anything. So,
right,
you know,
right. Um, how how do you balance though? Right. I mean that's the time for people. You kind of like taking a break, getting out. Like, how do you find that balance? How do you see signs of burnout? I don't know.
yeah, I mean, I think it's really all about how you are dedicated to the activity.
Okay.
Like if you wanna be a person that goes and parties and hang out with your family and entire winter break and do all the things that like, regular non-debaters do, then have at it. But don't
Mhm.
expect to be in the swing of things when it's time for either debating in that later winter break tournament or after the break. Because after the break, you definitely can see the like difference in folks that didn't debate over the winter break because they're just like, I want to have my break. And it's like, cool, you can have your break, but you have to understand that you get out of the swing of things
Mhm.
and you get a little rusty. And it's
Yeah.
something that is shown all the time.
Um, do you think that the performance that so what are some uh, yeah, let's start with this. Where's considering that there's less well, first, let's talk about are there more like virtual tournaments now? I mean, ever since
There
COVID.
are there
Yeah.
are more virtual tournaments, but they're not the monopoly. Still
Right.
people are dying to be back in person. So I know there's a big tent tournament that happens right before the winter break.
Hmm.
It's like the first week of December, I believe, online. But
Right.
there's not like a whole lot of them that are online.
Are there any over winter break? It would seem like that might be a good way to.
Not that I know. Well, so our tournament is going to accept online entries, but
Okay.
we're not an online tournament. We're a hybrid tournament.
Okay.
So yeah,
Yeah, I was wondering, like, so that is one factor. How many of tournaments are like that hybrid?
most most of the big national tournaments are.
Okay. Okay. Now, so you said that there's so many less tournaments now over winter break. What are some realistic goals that people can set about like how many tournaments to go to? And does this time, if this period during the season are like the judges poll and the Copeland thing, are they looking at that time period for to make their
Yeah,
assessment?
'cause that's like more for the second semester.
Oh, okay.
Because the winter tournaments kind of count as second semester.
Oh, they count as second semester. Okay.
Mhm. Um, but so the other thing about it is when you're doing those rankings, you kind of like keep in mind the previous semester.
Right.
Or like because I think there's going to be a coaches poll that comes out after Wake to see who
Okay.
was in the top,
Okay.
15, right? And then like the next coaches poll will happen probably after the Texas tournament, which is the last tournament before the NDT.
Okay. Okay.
But I think that when it comes to preparing for these things or the limited amount of tournaments or over the winter break, it's just more so about like what you intend on doing in debate. Do you want to be this big national circuit debater, blah, 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 like that's going to all the big national tournaments? Then you have to debate over winter break, right? And if you're trying to chase Copeland dreams, right?
Okay.
Copeland is like the top team in the nation, ranked overall in the season. You have to go to those tournaments because you're chasing those particular aspirations at that point. But if you just want to be like, I'm a regular debater, I go to the NDT. It's not like I'm a win the NDT, but I go and I break, right? Then you don't have to necessarily go to those tournaments. Or if you're like a
Okay.
JV or novice debater, you don't have to go to those tournaments if you don't want to. It doesn't put you at a higher ranking necessarily. It's
So
all about what you want to achieve.
So okay, if that's the case, if like the people that are going for those level rankings, those sort of like year long rankings, does that mean that the the competitive pool is more concentrated at winter tournaments?
Yeah, in a lot of cases they
Oh
are.
yeah. Okay. Man, and then that almost becomes like a self-fulfilling prophecy because they might just, with that concentration, just sort of scare off people like, why am I going to do that to myself? When
Yeah,
I could just
because
be taking a break.
Yeah, because Wake Forest is this weekend coming up, and it has like 150 entries or more.
Whoa.
Right? There will not be that many entries at a winter tournament. Like,
Oh, okay.
no,
Yeah.
no.
Right. Right. Right.
Yeah.
Um, yeah. And so, yeah, it's like it just sort of replicates on itself. All right. Cool. Um, all right. As a coach, how do you manage practice over winter break?
I have to come back home. I have to come back here early.
Mm,
So I am going to go home to Baltimore the 19th of December,
hmm
and we'll come back on the 28th of December.
Okay.
So there's a good chunk of time for them to celebrate New Year's, and all that good stuff. But
Right.
the 28th, 29th, 30th, I expect that we're going to be doing some level of practice.
Mm,
You can go do whatever you want on the 31st and on the 1st. But on the 2nd, 3rd, 4th, we need to be in there because the tournament starts on the 5th of
on the
January.
5th.
Yeah. So I mean, if they don't want to come, then it's just like cool, but you know that your success is going to be
Right.
a little bit muffled if you don't come and get refreshed, and then also think about what could be some new apps that people might break over that time period. What new apps were broken at um, Wake Forest because they probably might be used at the
Right.
winter tournament. So that's the thing.
Okay. How many teams are doing that over winter, do you think?
Um, the amount of entries has not really increased yet, but I'm pretty sure there's going to be at least 50 to 60 entries, I would think. At least. It
50,
won't be,
60. Okay.
it won't be as high as the others,
Right.
but
Oh, yeah,
I
of
think at
course.
least 50. At least 45, 50.
hmm Is the practice atmosphere any different? Are you I don't know, like uh, is it the same level of intensity? Is it more? Is it less?
More.
More intensity.
It has to be more because you have to understand that sometimes you're debating against people who are really good in the beginning of the season and in the middle, but like they kind of like slacked off on the winter break. And you have to overbeat them in order to just like show that like you're really here for it, and you can't just like go in with like a very mediocre stance. You have to be coming in with new arguments, new articulations, different ways to spin arguments in general,
Mhm.
maybe a different take on the topic. So you have to go a little bit harder in those practice sessions before the winter tournament.
Okay. So if you're going for these high level things, do you think that you basically have to agree to a trade off with your personal life? Oh yeah.
Yes, you do. I mean, you do. There's just going to be things like, you might have a significant other that has a birthday, or you
Oh
could have
wow.
a family member that has a wedding, or, it's just like, or, sometimes a funeral.
Hmm.
There's just like different things that you have to make sacrifices for in order to be successful. And it sucks that you have to, but like, it's up to you to try to figure out how you're going to supplement or make alternatives for the things that you have decided not to engage in. Like, I mean, for me, like in my junior year, I quit my job. Like
Mm,
when I was working at CBS in my junior year, and so I quit because I was like, I want to focus on debate, and I just applied for a bunch of scholarships, and I got a few of them, and that was enough of a refund check for me to live off of, you know, the
right.
semester. And so the year that I quit my job is the year that we won CEDA. So it's like that. I think that focus kind of like paid off. That wasn't really the intention to
Hmm.
win that tournament, but it happened because I was able to free up more of my time to do debate. And that's just kind of what it was.
Seems like a debate team or a forensics team would like there's not a large enough coaching pool to give that level of support. Like finding coaches is kind of rare.
Well, it depends on your team
Okay.
because there's some teams that have, you know, 10, 11 coaches.
Right.
Yeah.
But there those are kind of like returners to the program.
They are, but there's also people that have the ability and the flexibility to buy hired guns.
Oh, oh, oh.
Just people who they constantly use, who know the arguments and know how to phrase stuff, know how to cut the cards in ways that are, you know, beneficial. And
Hmm.
so people will have constant hired guns, but they'll have like a coaching staff at their school that's like maybe 4 people or
Hmm.
three, but they're able to hire like 10, 11 people.
Okay. And they're able to carry it over winter break.
Hmm.
Mm. Mm-mm. Man. So how many other programs are like you? Or like is it just you on the coaching, or who else you have at Long Beach?
We have one of our former students, Jason Green. She
Okay,
helps out a lot with the JV and novice portion of the team, and she
got it.
also helps with the varsity side as well. And we have you know uh, one of our other coaches who's director of forensics who helps out with the coaching sometimes. But he's also doing like IPDA and Parley coaching.
Mm.
We also have like a hired gun that we use, Geo, who is a former Iowa debater who helps us as well. So, you know,
Well, that's pretty fortunate. Looks pretty good. Yeah.
we need
Excellent.
it.
Yeah. Um, so what should teams play, like what should their goals be if this is like, all right, we're going up against the elites, at this one? It almost seems like it's it own mini NDT, like
Yeah, I mean, your goal has to be to try to outsmart them or try to spin arguments better than them. Because
okay.
let's be clear, in a lot of cases, a lot of the teams that are in the top elite are a production of what their coaches have written for them.
Hmm.
And they are just using their talent to deploy those things. And so I am of the philosophy that I'm not going to write everything word for word for my students. It does not make them better debaters. It doesn't help them grow. And it also doesn't help them be able to teach debate to other people when they get hired. Right. This is why sometimes you get these top debaters, you might win NDT or win CEDA or whatever, and you have them go teach at debate camps and they can't teach for shit
Mm.
because a lot of times their coaches are just handling their stuff.
Right.
And that's the thing. And so we were never, like, at least for me and my debate partner, we were never handed stuff. We had to do a lot of our work organically and craft it and create it. And so as a result, like him and I, you know oftentimes get hired at camps and get hired to coach and teach certain things. And so because we know how to do it, and we didn't have stuff that was hand fed to us, like on a document written up by somebody who stayed up all night doing it.
Right. Right. Man. The just the amount of dedication for something like this. I think about how many people are unaware of that, and
Mhm.
how many people might not understand that. Um, you ever had to try to explain it to somebody that doesn't understand what's going on?
Administration.
Oh, administration. Okay.
I mean, people just think, oh, it's just debate. Like, that's not that heavy.
Hmm.
Oh, you just need one coach. Why is it that important? You need multiple. And it's like, y'all like to see us when we win, when we do the high rankings and all that good stuff, but you want to question why we need the things that we need. It's just like that's the reason why we're competing against people that have budgets and tuitions that are double or quadruple the amount that we have.
Right.
And so I'm only one person in a lot of ways, and I can do as much as I can, but I'm not like Superman. And so I think that like I try to outsource as much as I can, but also realizing that I have to do a lot of the research and give the students articles and like, hey, you cut them, or I'll cut them for them at times when it's like a really high stakes thing.
Right.
But the thing is that we are a small school technically.
Hmm.
When we think about policy debate, like at most we have three policy teams, and so those three teams are the ones that are doing the debating for us.
Right.
And I mean I think it's awesome because we still at this point, like right now, we are like 11th in the nation
Okay.
team, and in our district we're like first. But it's just like to maintain that is hard with three teams when other people in our district have like 5 and 6 teams, but it's got to
Yeah.
win.
Yeah. When you're talking administration, like sometimes the way like coaches are paid are for teaching classes is one way, but for
Yeah.
traveling with a team over winter is something else, you know what I mean? And so even if you are salaried rather than like on a contract to contract basis, it's like sometimes like you got to draw the line somewhere eventually, you know what I mean? Like how far you're willing to go for this, at least as a coach, right? I mean, when you got
Yeah.
a couple of debaters that are just hungry for it, it's like I don't know how you say no to that. That's really tough,
Yeah, you
especially
can't.
yeah, if
Yeah.
you're the person, right? If you're the guy, yeah, that's tough.
Um, I
Yeah,
mean,
go ahead.
I had that experience um, when I was at Fresno State. Um, But I had like two students that were just like hungry. They just wanted to
Right.
win and to do stuff and to get their names out there. And they just kept me at the squad room like 11, 12 o'clock at night. Sometimes I was like homegirls. I gotta sleep.
Yeah, yeah,
But I mean, it's hard to like say no to that when they want to be better and they want to learn stuff, they want to know stuff.
right,
So
right.
that's just what it is.
I mean, every once in a while you get that year where it's like nobody wants to do it, and I mean, I guess take your winter break. You know what I mean? It's like you only get it every once in a while, but and
Mhm.
you kind of have to pay your dues when there's somebody who's just really wants that extra time. And again, like how you get like you don't get paid more because you happen to have a
Mhm.
dedicated student. You know what I mean? It's like if you have it multiple years in a row, you're kind of like, man, I've been putting in overtime for years now. It's a bit.
Yeah.
Well, I'm starting to sound old. I really am. Because I mean that's from
I
experience,
mean,
right?
no, I mean, it's true though. I
Yeah.
mean, yeah. I mean, I
And
wish you get bonuses for winning, but you don't.
yeah, I mean, yeah, I know. And it's and you really feel it over winter break. You know what I mean? It's like you got all the family stuff. It's like you really feel it then too, whether or not how much time you're putting in.
I mean, that's why, like, for me, like, I just hurry up and I leave right when class is in and when the finals are over, so I can be back
Right.
within like 8 to 9, no more than 10 days.
Hmm.
So
All right. Well, yeah, it's an interesting time period during a debate season. because you got like a football season at the college level, and it's like it's done when the semester is done. You know what I mean? It's like, and you got a different sport in the spring, but debate straddles them, and it has this sort of moment in between where it's like trying to piece together two different seasons into one.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, it's interesting. I like talking about the unique parts of the culture. Thank you so much, Devin, for helping me understand the CEDA part of that a little bit better.
Welcome.
All right. We'll be back. Catch us again.